All right, Doom Patrol episode 11, Francis Patrol. So, I'm a bit uncomfortable with the man-on-man makeout sessions. It's not really what I want to see. The only gripe I really have about it is, Negative Man being gay, but that's already happened. He wasn't gay in the comics. They've already taken that direction. This didn't feel like some kind of pandering or whatever to that particular audience. It actually felt well written, and my only real gripe with this story though is it just feels like this dude needs to just get over it, and I think they finally got that point across. It's he's been gay forever and he's been alive forever, and yet he's still afraid of what other people think. That was really, really like apparent in here, and it's been really, really apparent that he's cautious about what other people think of him as a gay person, and it's like, why do you care, man? I obviously, I don't really understand this type of behavior, because if you're gay, just be gay. That who cares if somebody doesn't like it? That's your thing, and they're not sleeping with you, so why should it matter? So I felt like this type of thing's dragged out too long, but I think they finally resolved it here. They took him back to see John, who's surprisingly still alive, and he's an old man now. And this type of thing is always really crazy to see. You think about it happening in reality. It reminds me of the whole Captain America Peggy Carter situation, where she's really old and he's still young and vital. So it's got some impactfulness to it when it comes down to it. It's like, damn. And to hear him say that fucking steak sandwich was awesome. That was pretty funny. But the first scene where they were in the motel room together, and then the next scene where they were out in public, you could tell that it was really bothering him. He didn't want to hang out with these other guys and be openly gay, and the whole point of him was to go see John and get closure on this situation. And I think they handled that pretty well. Again, I gotta say, I don't really like seeing the makeout sessions between two dudes, but it's whatever. It was a well-written story, the way they played this out, with the way they got together and had their conversation and caught up on old times and realized that John moved on a long time ago, and Negative Man he's just been stuck in this one state of mind, this whole self-pity. He feels bad for the way everything went down, but you got to get over it at this point. It's like 60 years that he does explain the whole immortality thing to an extent, with the radiation has its perks. I thought the pairing between Cyborg and Crazy Jane was pretty well. The way they bounced off each other, the way they could relate to each other about Cyborg's got this thing going on where Grid is trying to upgrade him without his approval, and he doesn't really have control anymore. It doesn't feel like he has control anymore, and that's a scary thing to him, with that foreshadowing of the painting. And Mr. Nobody could just be screwing with his head, or that could play out in reality. And Jane points that out, that she doesn't have control at all. Cyborg at least had control to an extent, but he had to shut down his software, and she tries to urge him to call his dad, and doesn't get involved with it. And then the scene plays out. I was wondering why this scene was playing out, why this random couple came by fighting, and it was the Bureau of Normalcy. They took Cyborg, and that's going to be interesting to see what they do with him. It's possible that they're the reason that painting plays out, that they brainwash him or hack his software, whatever. I'm very curious to see how that actually goes down, but I think that was really the only plot point that moved along. The rest, was just fleshing out the characters. The pairing with Rita and Robot Man was pretty great. I don't really remember if they've been paired up or not that often, but I thought they were it was working out pretty great. Robot Man's funny as always with the way he's losing his shit. They go there to see his daughter, and Rita's trying to tell him, go talk to your daughter. Tell her that you're her dad. And he kind of chickened out. That's one thing that's been bothering me is that these characters, they're stubborn. They chicken out of situations, going through with things that they need to do to get closure on situations. So his daughter ended up making this whole big speech about a watch and about how his friend adopted her, and how this watch was from her original dad, but she had it engraved with a message for her adopted father, which was Cliff's best friend. And Cliff, I bet he was eaten by a gator, and Cliff, instead of talking to his daughter, he chickened out. He wanted to go find this gator and find this watch, retrieve it, and bring it back to his daughter so he can, feel better about this conversation or feel better about himself. But of course, that's just an excuse, a delay from not actually talking to his daughter, just him trying to find another way to get around it. And he actually ends up getting the watch. It was kind of disappointing, though, that we didn't really get to see the fight between him and the big gator. But it was absolutely hilarious to see Rita on that boat in the swamp complaining, like, Cliff, let's just go back and tell her. Like, and the way he's losing his shit out in the swamp, yelling, and then he shut down for a moment. I thought he was down, and Rita started freaking out. This is, how am I supposed to get you back? I thought that was pretty good. But he powered back up. Or I don't know if he was actually powered down for a moment. I think he's just lost in misery. But he told her to go back, and that's when he encountered that gator. And when it came down to it, he just left the watch instead of talking to his daughter. But I think his daughter now knows that he left the watch. And her reaction to first meeting him, this guy's a full-blown robot. Her reaction to first meeting him, she didn't have some big, like, weird reaction to it. It just felt very casual. So, I mean, I don't know. I probably would have preferred some kind of over-the-top reaction or some kind of real reaction to a robot man just showing up. But they do exist in the DC universe where characters like Superman and Batman and all these other big godly-like figures exist. So it's not a stretch to see that she wouldn't have some kind of negative reaction or some head scratching reaction. But it felt like it really wrapped up a lot of things for these characters. We're going to be moving forward with the whole cyborg thing, him being captured by the Bureau of Normalcy. Rita, she had her moments this episode where she wants to find Chief, and she wants to find out why he was going to have her locked up. Or she said she was concerned why he was going to have her with the older Doom Patrol, and what happened to them and everything. She just wants to find Chief and figure all this out. And she's been pretty stubborn this season herself, just like the rest of the characters. But I was really glad that she was just ready to find the Chief. Talk to Cyborg, get him on board with it, and help her out and move this thing along. But it did not play out like that. However, I think we're going to see some pretty big moves forward with the next episode, considering that Cyborg was taken, and I'm really interested to see this finally move forward, how it's going to play out. And I really hope that the Negative Man is over his issues, so we can stop going through the motions here with this stuff. It's like, you're gay, get over it, accept it. Who gives a fuck if people don't like it? Whatever, man. You got to get comfortable with being yourself. And as for Robot Man, I'm still disappointed with the whole. He just ditched the watch and didn't have that conversation with his daughter. I like the way that Rita's behaving now. It seems like she's ready to just, you know. But the one thing too that they mentioned is Animal Vegetable Man. Like they dropped him in there again, and he refuses to give up his dinosaur, like half his dinosaur head. So every time they mention him, it's something funny. Anytime he appears, they also mention Flex Mantello, and it'll be interesting. I'm sure he's going to be back. They mentioned him a couple of times. I'm sure he's going to be back at this season. That they're going to find him and use him to find the chief. Or well, he could be dead for all we know, but I'm pretty sure he's going to come back. Whereas I'd give this episode like a 5 out of 10. It wasn't anything extraordinary. It was pretty average. It fleshed out a lot of character stuff and something, but nothing really like hilarious or really strong happened, in my opinion. For me, it's just a pretty average episode. Not that that's a good thing or a bad thing. Just, some of it was enjoyable to watch, and some of it was like irritating. It's like, stop being so stubborn, just get this out of the way. Dragging it out. Anyways, comment down below what were your least favorite scenes, your most favorite scenes, and stay awesome. Rock on.